Hello folks and welcome. So today's video is going to be about the Edge version of Linux Mint 21.2 Cinnamon. Cinnamon Edge version. Possibly why you'd want it and what can it do for me. Alright, first of all, the Edge version was released yesterday. Today's date is 4th of October 2023. So that it was released on the 3rd of October. Now the Edge version ships with a 6.2 series kernel. And so I will talk a little bit about the differences with the standard version and this version here. You can find the minimum specifications on Linux Mint's website, or you can use your favorite search engine on the internet. I'm probably using a little bit more RAM than necessary, but this is just one of my test machines. I'm using an AMD graphics and AMD CPU as an FYI. I'll also talk a little bit about the installer. This is a installed copy on a tower computer using a standard USB based mouse, and I'll touch a little bit about touchpad also. Filming in 1920 by 1080, you can adjust your YouTube player accordingly with that gear symbol. A lot of your YouTube players default to 460. That's a lot less screen res than I'm filming in. This also looks very nice in 4K. I mean very nice. That's how I booted it up, and then I reduced it to 1920 by 1080. Tried to save you the smaller icons, spare you the smaller icons. But it does look very nice in 4K with a modern monitor. So let's go. I'm going to do Alt and F4, and then I'm going to open up a web browser. And I'm going to be showing you a couple of things, but don't expect too many tips today. You can certainly hit subscribe and find out a lot about my little tips and tricks. So I'm going to go to Mint's website. Now there's two ways you can go check out information on 21.2. We can go to the download all sections. LMDE6 is also available here. Linux Mint Debian Edition version 6. I do have 2 current videos on that and a beta. I'm going to click all versions, and I'll reduce this down for a second. So LMDE6 can be found at the bottom. It's a Cinnamon desktop based off of Debian bookworm. Scrolling toward the top, making this larger on the fly, the Edge version and the regular Cinnamon version. I'll talk about the differences in a second. I also have a newly released video on 21.2 Mate desktop using GRSync for backups that you can also utilize with either one of these Cinnamon desktops. And I also have videos on XFCE if you're curious. So I'm going to go to the main screen and click the download section of 21.2. And then I'm going to scroll back a little bit. I'll let you see the version numbers. This is the standard version of the Cinnamon desktop, and the download section is here. And then you can read about new features and release notes. There's the Mate edition, the XFCE, and this is the Edge. So let me scroll in a little bit. So 180%. I'm sure that's large enough for you. Anyways, made for modern hardware. So the kernel can support the latest hardware chipsets right out of the box. I'm going to give you a scenario. So I was installing the regular version of Cinnamon on a laptop manufactured in the last 6 months. I did this, I want to say 3 weeks ago. And I installed the regular version because the Edge was not available. But I kind of figured it wasn't going to detect my touchpad. So on this laptop, I decided to use a USB-based mouse. And I went through the install, then I upgraded the kernel to 6.2, and then the touchpad started working. So this is one scenario. But if you want that experience right out of the box, you're going to install that on a newer computer. You may want to try the Edge version. Where can you get it? Download section. All right, this is the Edge. Let me first talk about the installer, and then I'll show you some of the sites you can get it from. So it's a 2.8 gig image. My experience was this. I installed it on a regular computer, not a virtual, and the drive I used was a drive all by itself, and it was solid state. I brought up the image after I downloaded it and burned it onto a USB stick. You can certainly do that on a DVD. Now the tools that are contained on that live image are quite a few. There's a gparted is on there for repartitioning drives. And you can usually do that in 20 or 30 seconds when you're used to gparted. Usually takes me about 15 seconds to repartition a drive. But anyways, moving along. Once you bring up the image on your computer, you will go through a hardware detection phase. And it will be a black screen. I wish they would put a little logo there that says what it's doing, but in either case, that was my experience. And I kind of knew what it was doing. Once it detects the hardware, it brings you up with a screen that looks like this. And the first thing I usually head for is the network card. Make sure it's working, log in, and then I went through the installer. And the installer also has an option of installing multimedia codecs. And of course, you need internet for that. And then you can also, if you don't like extension 4 for your file format, then you can try ZFS. The time zone map is clickable in case it doesn't find your correct time zone. And then you can add your user and password. My fully installed experience with Edge was roughly 12 to 15 minutes. And then I brought the system completely down to off, and then did a cold reboot, sorry, not a reboot, a cold boot, and it was about 7 seconds before I saw the login screen. So not too bad. Again, this is 64-bit. So where can you get this? Well, just like my videos are viewed all over the planet Earth, you know, Linux Mint also has sites all over the planet Earth where you can download stuff. So we have Canada, USA, and other countries. All right, I'm not going to dwell on this. I think you get the idea. All right, now I'm going to close that. Let's talk a little bit about software. You can also resize these boxes, by the way, if that's not to your liking. It's very similar to an XFCE desktop. So there's Software Manager, Synaptic Package Manager, and Terminal is how you can install software. So I'm going to start with Synaptic, SY. And I'll open that up and put my password in. I'm just going to give you a couple of basic scenarios in here. So 74,927 packages are listed, 74,000 plus, almost 75,000. This does not contain Flatpak software, by the way. That's found in Software Manager. So there's more goodies for you to install. So 2171 are currently installed. Where's it coming from? Repositories. It's coming from Mint and Ubuntu. If you are running the other Cinnamon desktop for LMDE6, this will say Debian on it. It will be the same dialog box. You can do searches. You can click on things. Some things have screenshots, some things not so much. Mark it for install, mark the other goodies, and do the apply. 74,000 plus. Now, let's open up Software Manager. So whether you want to use the minimize box, I'll show you a couple more tips. You can click and hold and pull it to the top and double click. You can pull it straight down, and you can also just double click or do it the old fashioned way. All right, so I'm going to pull this back. So we can do searches. Just manually resize this if you don't mind. And I'll recenter that. So I had a question by a user the other day, and you can see all the different categories. And I'll click on VLC for a second. And they go, well, there's an arrow here. Why would I want to use Flatpak software instead of system package? You can see the sizes to download and what kind of space consumption there is. And why is this software so huge? All right, the explanation I have for you is this software is used by roughly either 22 or 32 different distributions. Linux Mint is only one. So flathub.org is where you can find some of that information. But they use a secure channel to upload the software through here. But more importantly, why is it so big? Because Flatpak software runs in a sandbox environment, isolated from your system is the definition for that. A lot of people prefer that. Then there's also version numbers. A lot of times you'll find software that's FlatHub or Flatpak is also newer. I'll give you one example. LibreOffice is one of them. LibreOffice 7.6.2 can be found in Software Manager if you look for it. Okay? But again, it has all the software that it needs to run. Self-contained. That's why these are big. Now, I'm going to give you another piece of advice. So a lot of people don't get the fact that Linux Mint is not a rolling distribution. You know, that a lot of people don't live on the edges, one would say, even though this is called Edge. No pun intended, but more importantly, a lot of distributions like to use the latest and the greatest, and sometimes systems break. Okay, that's one of the reasons why that I would recommend that you stay with Software Manager and Synaptic to download software instead of the wild, wild west of the internet. Whenever you download software off the internet, yeah, a lot of them can be reputable places, and if you know how to install it, where to put those pieces of software in your system, then that's great. But a lot of people don't, and they end up breaking their system. So just be careful. Software Manager is a nice and convenient place for you to install Flatpak software, and your Software Manager down here, or your updater, also updates Flatpak software all on its own also. Again, you can see where it's coming from, FlatHub. So that was my spiel on Flatpak software. If you don't like it, you can certainly stick with the other packages. All right, just a little quick thing. A lot of it has to do with version numbers and running stuff in a sandboxed environment. There's lots of software like that. There's a complete section for Flatpak in here. So Software Manager contains that, but not Synaptic Package Manager. So if you are installing software through Terminal, it gets its software from the same sources. Another way to view this is to go to System Settings. I'm just right-clicking on my panel. Down here, a little bit further down, is Software Sources. So Terminal gets their software from here. All right, so why would you want the Edge version? One of them could be touchpads. It's got gestures in here. I don't have one of those today for your demo because I'm using a regular USB-based mouse. And also, some of that stuff is found in there. Under Themes, you've got the standard simple way to install stuff and the advanced. All of these mouse cursors come installed. These are installed in USR share icons. So when you click this box, it normally generates a folder in your file manager. That folder is hidden, Control H. That shows hidden files and folders. This is this one right here. There's currently nothing in it. If you've seen any of my videos, this is normally where I put mouse cursors. However, the other ones are installed. The one I'm currently using, this one by default, is installed in USR share icon, protected by root permissions. That's fairly standard on most, if not all, Linux distros. But on my new channel, I've been showing people how to install them here rather easily, because you have ownership of this folder. So anyways, themes. There's lots of options, which I'm not going to talk about today. But I am going to just remind you that this is using a 6.2, and the kernels can be found here on this system. This category is here only for LM21.2, not LMDE6. All right. The regular standard version of the Cinnamon desktop for 21.2 normally uses a 515 series kernel, and they're still being supported. You see that? The 519 is end of life. 6.2 is what this machine is using. You can see the active kernel right here. 6.2-34. 33 is what came installed as of yesterday. That was when it was released, also yesterday. That's when I downloaded this. So just wanted to let you see where the kernels are located. Anyways, yeah, I think I'm pretty much done, folks. So again, a recap is if you have newer modern hardware and you want that experience right out of the box, download the Edge version. It ships with a 6.2 series kernel. For your more modern hardware, you can certainly install the standard version if you are using the older hardware. And keep in mind, Cinnamon doesn't run on really super old computers. You may want to consider another option if you're running this on really old computers. I'm going to go full screen, and I'll talk about these guys here. I'll resize that on the fly. You may want to try the XFCE edition. It's more forgiving, and it's a lightweight. It's more forgiving for older computers, really old computers. And actually, it's a lot of people prefer XFCEs also. And I have also many videos on that. Thank you for watching.